All right, today we're going to review special right triangles. So first we're going to look at 45, 45, 90-degree triangles. And for this triangle here, remember that in 45, 45, 90, that the two legs, this is called a leg, and this is called a leg, are equal in length. And across from the right angle, remember that's called the hypotenuse. And each of the legs, since they are the same length, we can just label them x, and the hypotenuse is actually equal to x root 2. So the equation that we can use is that the hypotenuse is equal to leg times root 2, and again, that is the equation that we're going to go ahead and use in order to help us solve these problems. All right, so let's go ahead and do some examples. So looking at the first one, we're going to solve for x and y, knowing that this is a 45 degree, 90-degree triangle. So for this, we know that the two legs are going to be the same length, so these are both the legs right here. So that makes finding x easy. So we know x is equal to 5. And if we want to find the hypotenuse, which is y, we know the hypotenuse is equal to the leg times root 2. So in this case, the hypotenuse is the variable y, so y is equal to the leg, which is 5, times the square root of 2, and that gives us our solution for y. Looking at the next one, so we know that this is the hypotenuse for x. That means this side length and this side length, which are the legs, are equal. So we know y is equal to 24, and across this would be x, which is the hypotenuse. So again, we can use our formula. The hypotenuse is equal to leg root 2. So in this case, the hypotenuse is the variable x, and the leg we know is equal to 24 times root 2. So now we have both x and y. Looking at next triangle, number 4. So for this triangle, same thing. So we know that this is a leg and this is a leg. So we know that x and y have to be equal to each other. But in this case, we don't have them. So we'd have the hypotenuse given to us. So again, the hypotenuse is equal to leg times root 2. So in this case, since x and y are equal, you can just pick either of the variables to put in there. I'm going to go ahead and just put x. So we get 15 root 2 is equal to x root 2. And now we're solving for x. So how do you solve for x? You want to divide both sides by the square root of 2. So of course that just cancels out, and that cancels out as well because it's just really equal to 1. So we have 15 is equal to x, so that means x equals 15, and y is equal to 15 because both x and y are the legs of the triangle. All right, looking at question number 4, so x and y again are the legs, and 46 is the hypotenuse. So again, we know that the hypotenuse is equal to leg times root 2. So in this case, 46 is equal to, and you again can pick either variable x or y, so x root 2. And to solve for x, we have to divide both sides by the square root of 2. So those cancel out. So now I have x is equal to 46 divided by the square root of 2. But remember, we don't like to have radicals in our denominator. So that means we need to rationalize this. So we can multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. We talked about that before, so that gives us a group 2 in our denominator. So this ends up being 46 root 2 over the square root of 4, which we did on purpose to get rid of that radical. So this gives us 46 times the square root of 2 divided by 2. And of course, 46 over 2 reduces into 23. So that means x is equal to 23 times the square root of 2. And since x and y are both the legs, that means also y is equal to 23 times the square root of 2. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at 30, 60, 90-degree right triangles. So for 30, 60, 90, across from the 30 is always the short leg, which I like to label as SL for short leg. Across from the 60 degrees is going to be the long leg, or I'll write LL for long leg. And of course, we know across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. So we can label this as, if we're using our variables, so this would be x. This is actually x root 3, and 2x are the side lengths. So for this, the formulas that I like to use are the long leg is equal to the short leg times root 3, and the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So those are the formulas that I'm going to use. Looking at this first one, given the short leg, we're going to solve for the rest of the information, so the long leg and the hypotenuse. So we can see that, of course, it's the short leg because it's across from the 30. So we know that 7 is equal to the short leg. So if I have the short leg, that means I can go ahead and solve for the long leg. So long leg, remember, is equal to the short leg times root 3. So in this case, the long leg is variable x because it's across from the 60 degrees. So x is equal to 7 root 3. So now we have the long leg. And we can go ahead and solve for the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So in this case, the hypotenuse is the variable y. So y is equal to 2 times 7, which is 14. So y is equal to 14. And now we have both the long leg and the hypotenuse. Looking at the next triangle, same thing. So we know that 24 is across from the 30, so that's the short leg. So we want to solve for the long leg first. So the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. So long leg we know is across from 60, so across from the 60 is the y. So y is equal to 24 root 3. And now we're going to go solve for the hypotenuse, which is variable x. So we know the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So in this case, x is equal to 2 times 24. So x is equal to 48 for the length. And then looking at question number 7, same thing. So if it helps you to also label your sides as you're going, that's fine too. I didn't do it in the other two. But so we know this is the hypotenuse, across from 30 is the short leg, so of course this would be the long leg. So we know that, again, we were given the short leg. So the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. So in this case, the long leg is x is equal to short leg, which is 5 root 6 times root 3. If you have two radicals with the same index, which in this case, because there's square root, the index is 2, you can multiply what's underneath. So that gives us 5 times the square root of 18. And for this, we can simplify the square root of 18. So 18 breaks down into 9 times 2, and 9 breaks down into 3 times 3. So that gives us a group that we can take out. So that means the 3 is going to go on the outside of the radical, and the 2 is going to stay underneath because it doesn't have a group to go with it. So this becomes x is equal to 5 times 3 times the square root of 2. So that means x is equal to 15 root 2. So now we have x, the long leg, and now we need the hypotenuse. So I'm going to go ahead and do that work up here. So the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So the hypotenuse is variable y. So y is equal to 2 times 5 root 6. 2 is not underneath the radical, so that means all we have to do is multiply the 2 times the 5 because those are both on the outside. So 10 times the square root of 6. And of course, if we could reduce root 6, we would, but in this case we cannot, so that is our hypotenuse. Looking at the next triangle, same thing. So x is the short leg, across from 60. This is the long leg, and y is the hypotenuse. So now notice that we were given the long leg, and we're going to solve for the hypotenuse in the short leg. So we want to use first the fact we have our equation. So we know the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3, and we know the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So of course, we cannot use the second equation first because we don't know what the hypotenuse or the short leg is. So that means because we're given the long leg, we're going to have to use this first equation with the long leg. So we have the long leg, which is 15 times the square root of 3 is equal to the short leg, which is the variable x times root 3. And now we're going to go ahead and solve for x by dividing both sides by the square root of 3. So those end up canceling out because that's equal to 1. And we get that the short leg is equal to 15. So now that we have the short leg, we can go ahead and solve for the hypotenuse using our other formula. So to solve for the hypotenuse, we know the hypotenuse is the variable y is equal to 2 times the short leg. So 2 times 15, which gives us 30. So y is equal to 30. Now we've solved for the other two remaining sides. Looking at the next one, same thing. We're going to use the long leg formula first because 36 is the long leg. Across from the 30 degrees is x, so that's the short leg, and this is the hypotenuse. This is across from the right angle. So we have the long leg equals the short leg times root 3. Long leg is 36 equals x root 3. So we're just going to go ahead and solve for x by dividing by the square root of 3. So now I have x is equal to 36 divided by the square root of 3. We don't like to have radicals in our denominator. It's not simplified. So we're going to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And when we do that, we get 36 times the square root of 3 divided by, and root 3 times root 3 is the square root of 9, which is, of course, equal to 3. And then, of course, we can simplify this because 36 divided by 3 is 12. So this is equal to 12 times the square root of 3. So now we know that x is equal to 12 root 3. And let's go ahead and now solve for the hypotenuse. So hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So hypotenuse is the variable y. So y is equal to 2 times, and we found the short leg as 12 times the square root of 3. So that means that y is equal to 2 times 12, which is 24, times the square root of 3. So now we find the hypotenuse and the short leg. So then the next part is going to be given the hypotenuse, solve for the other two side lengths. So for this one, this is the short leg because it's across from 30, across from 60 is the long leg, and of course 20 then is the hypotenuse. So if we look at our, again, formulas, we have the long leg equals short leg times root 3. And then, of course, the other formula is the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So for this one, we can't use the first formula because we don't know what the long leg or the short leg is equal to. So that means we're going to have to solve this second formula. So if I plug in what I know the hypotenuse is 20 is equal to 2 times the short leg, which is the variable x. So we're just solving for x by dividing both sides by 2. So that gives us x is equal to 10. And for the next one, we now know that the short leg is 10, so the long leg equals 10 times root 3. So the long leg, remember, was the variable y, so y is equal to 10 root 3. All right, so let's look at the next equation, or next triangle. So we know that across from 60 is x, so this is the long leg. This is the 30 degrees, so that means y is the short leg, and this is the hypotenuse. So again, because we don't know the short leg or the long leg, we have to solve the hypotenuse first, that equation. So hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So in this case, hypotenuse is 37 is equal to 2 times the short leg, which is y. So divide by 2, and we get sorry, I don't even just realize that I put this is the opposite. So y is, sorry, the short leg, and x is the long leg. So let's go ahead and do that again. So we have, instead of y, this is x. So divide by 2, so we get x is equal to 37 over 2. So that is our long leg. Sorry, I did it again. So that y was our short leg. So sorry about that. So this is y equals 37 over 2. There we go. And now I can solve for the long leg. Oh, long leg is equal to short leg root 3. So long leg is x is equal to short leg, which we just said was 37 over 2 times the square root of 3. And that does not simplify at all, so that would be our answer. All right, so looking at the last one, so across from the 30 is the short leg. That means x is the long leg, and this is the hypotenuse. So now that we have that, we have the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. So the hypotenuse is 26 root 15 is equal to 2 times the short leg, which is the variable y. So now when we solve, we divide by 2. So 26 over 2 is 13. So the short leg is equal to 13 times the square root of 15. And now we can go ahead and solve for the long leg. So long leg is equal to short leg root 3. X equals 13 times the square root of 15 times the square root of 3. And again, remember when you're multiplying radicals, you multiply what's underneath. So x is equal to 13 times the square root of 45, because that's 15 times 3. And then we can see if we can simplify the square root of 45. So 45, we know, again, it's just 15 times 3, because we just multiplied that. And you can break down 15. So 15 is going to be 3 times 5. And so now we can see that we have a group of 2 3s. The 5 doesn't make a group, so that stays underneath. So that means that x is equal to 13 times 3 would go on the outside times the square root of 5. And the last step is just to multiply. 3 times 13 is 39. So x is equal to 39 times the square root of 5. And that is it for our review on our special right triangles.